Hello, welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hi guys, it's Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and I'm so happy to have you back with me today. Today's going to be a phenomenal day. We're talking about how to address the dreaded one-star Google review, or really any negative feedback that you get from patients, team members. Really, it's anything during your day, and let's face it, it happens. And it's going to happen. I don't care how amazing you are as a dentist. I don't care how amazing you are at communication. I don't care how phenomenal your team is supporting you. This is a part of our practice. And I say it's a part of our practice with purpose. You know, in dental school, we learn so much about how to care for our patients' teeth and their health. And yet we didn't learn the practice of being a dentist. We learned the practice of dentistry, but we didn't learn the practice of being a dentist. And the truth is, bad things are going to happen. So today we're going to talk about how to address that dreaded one-star Google review. And as you know, what they're going to tell you, any coach or consultant is going to tell you that one-star Google review, we're going to address it. We're going to go straight to that comment. We're going to address it with kindness and compassion and offer to have that patient come in and talk about what happened. You're going to always give some compassion and understanding. That's what people want to see anytime we see a bad review online. And then you're going to bury it. You're going to bury it with a ton of positive reviews. You're going to start asking patients to leave reviews. You're going to start with confidence, really reaching out to your patients in the day who have great experiences and asking them with great kindness and reminding your team to support you too. Those are the practical steps of how you address a one-star Google review. But what I really want to focus on today is how do you bury it in your head and in your heart? How do you address it with compassion? The same way you address that Google review with compassionate words and a response, allowing them to have their perspective, but also giving them an opportunity to be seen and how you can support them further. How can you give that same grace and compassion to yourself? And then secondly, how do you bury it in your head so that you're not taking it home with you at night, so that it's not keeping you awake, so that it's not clouding your judgment every time you treat another patient. It's not getting in your way and limiting you from being the incredible person that you are, the incredible dentist and leader that you are. That's what we're talking about today. And it's so interesting because when we start to notice this really impacting our lives is when we see that we're no longer present for conversations with our family, or you get home and you're just in a bad mood. How often do you take it out on your husband? And either you're noticing all the things he's doing wrong, or your wife, or you're dumping it on that person. You're like, oh my gosh, I just got to tell you about this horrible thing that happened today. And what's lying underneath it is shame and fear and all these feelings that you're bringing up again. Now, not only did it happen during your day at work, but now you're bringing it up again at night. Now you're reliving the whole thing, and it doesn't feel any better. It's not getting this off your chest. I know that's the goal, right? I just need to tell someone and get this off my chest. And sometimes it feels a little bit better, but it doesn't actually fully resolve. In fact, the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, right? Maybe you call a friend, or maybe you put something on a Facebook group and you say, hey guys, how do I address this? It doesn't actually make you feel any better. Here's the truth. And this is what we know. And sometimes it really helps to just reframe. I love this phrase of, instead of what if, let's talk about what is. Okay, so let's talk about what is for a moment, because your mind wants to go to all these places of what if every other, possible patient sees this Google review and I lose all new patient exams? What if this person sends me to the board or sues me? All these what ifs start getting worse and worse and worse. We start catastrophizing the outcome. Let's just return for a moment to what is. There were also 50 5-star Google reviews. There were also hundreds of patients who really appreciate what you do. That same day that you saw that patient, you probably had tenfold the number of compliments and gratitude and appreciation. That's truth. What else is? Let's go back to what is. What is true is you're doing amazing things every day. You are putting smiles on children's faces, on people who are in pain. You are taking people out of pain. You are taking courageous action to support people with their smiles and to give them back their sense of self-confidence. You're giving mothers permission to stand in front of the camera again, so they can be in the pictures that they're going to look back at decades later and not always behind the camera because they're embarrassed or ashamed of their smiles. You are making such a big impact in people's lives. The other thing that is true is you courageously take action every day that might make patients uncomfortable, knowing that it's for their greater good. Let's talk about palatal injections as a metaphor, right? It stinks to give your patient a palatal injection. It's always painful, no matter what you do or tricks you have up your sleeve. They're the most uncomfortable, but we do it with intention because we know it's for their greater good so that they don't feel the other work we have to do. Use that metaphor to recognize you are doing courageous things that you know feel uncomfortable, but you're holding always at the center of your heart what's best for your patient, what's best for your practice, what's best for your team. Let's also remember another thing that is. What is true is it isn't always about you. In fact, 99% of the time, it isn't about you at all. The truth is, when a patient comes in, they're in pain. They're already in fight or flight. If they're not in pain, they're in fear. Our mouths are such a place of vulnerability, and it is scary to put your mouth, that very vulnerable place, in someone else's hands. Now let's add on unexpected cost. Everybody who comes into the dental office is always afraid of the money. The financial fears are huge. So your patient sitting in the chair automatically is in their own state of fight or flight. And what do people do when they're in fight or flight? They fight or they flee. Or they freeze sometimes. That's true too. But when you get aggression and anger from your patients, know that it's possibly just because of the state they're in. It isn't always about you. And that is what is. So why do we obsess? Why, when we know the truth, all those beautiful things I just listed for you, why do we tend to obsess over this one negative feedback? Even though rationally we can rationalize for ourselves all the reasons that we shouldn't. Well, it makes a lot of sense because evolutionarily, that is how our human bodies were designed. Evolutionarily, your brain, your mind, was developed to keep you alive. And what that means is we hyper-focus on danger. So in your thought process, this is seen as danger. So we start to hyper-focus on it because if you can focus on the danger, you can get away. You can make choices and decisions to get away. That is how we have developed evolutionarily. But it doesn't mean that's the way we have to live. Your mind is designed to keep you alive. It's not designed to keep you happy. But we get to use the power of metacognition, neuroplasticity, and understand how we can shift perspective and get us back to feeling good. Because once again, remember, when you feel good, you can do good. When you feel good about yourself, you can actually respond to that Google review in a calm, compassionate, strategic, creative way. But when you're feeling stressed out, you're reacting just like that patient. You might take action out of fear, out of fight, or flee, pretend it didn't happen, right? Just ignore it because it feels better to just avoid altogether or procrastinate. What's also true about why we hyperfocus is we were taught to do this in dental school. We were taught to find the problem and address it. We were taught also to be very super self-critical. Trust me, I know this because I used to teach the course. I used to teach the course in dental school of self-assessment. And what that meant was you learn the skills of critical self-evaluation, so that you know what you need to improve on. So you've been training yourself for this for a very long time. So it makes so much sense for so many reasons why you are hyper-focusing and stressing about this one Google review, even though all the evidence shows you that you should feel so great about yourself. So how do we bury it? How do we bury it cognitively, energetically, emotionally? There are actually these two incredible skills that I've just talked about, and they are this idea of metacognition. So you can think of metacognition more about conscious awareness, being aware that you have thoughts, right? Most people go through their whole lives not even aware that they're actually thinking thoughts. I know that sounds crazy, but you are not your thoughts. You are the human who has thoughts. So let's just recognize the power of the awareness. Oh my gosh, I just had a thought that my whole practice is going to fall apart. I just had the thought that this one Google review is the first sign that we're on the downhill. I just had the thought that this Google review is the sign that I might be sued, right? What is the thought you just had? Having that awareness is so huge. Because your mind believes what it's thinking. When you have that thought of, I'm going to get sued, what happens is instantaneously you develop a picture in your head of a future possibility that is not true currently, but your mind believes it's true. And your body, at a nervous system level, at an autonomic nervous system level, goes into a state of stress. And now we start to focus even more myopically on the problem. The awareness is huge. So when you have the awareness, you get to stop. Literally stop what you're doing. Get your body outside. Do what you need to do to walk away with the sole intention of calming your body down. Now, these are some amazing skills, by the way, that I teach in Radical Happiness. And coincidentally, the next cohort is launching on January 24th. So if you are a woman dentist and you're listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to know how to do this. Go to www.thebizofhappiness.com/radical happiness. Or you know what? Just make it easy and go to the show notes and find it in the show notes. But what you need to do in order to quote unquote bury it is first bring your body to calm. That is number one. And there's some amazing somatic practices that are easy to do in the dental office that take less than 30 seconds. But that really is number one. It's to get ourselves out of that automatic reactivity that I need to face this immediately. There's an urgency, or I need to suppress, and then we take it home with ourselves and then it comes out sideways, right? So the first step is the awareness of the thought. And then the second step is going back into your body, stopping what you're doing and bringing your body back to calm. Number 3, neuroplasticity. What's so cool is we get to change and rewire our pattern of thinking. We get to change our neural pathways throughout our whole lives. It doesn't end. You don't get too old for this. And we get to recognize that this balance, this scale is out of balance. Right now, my scale of recognizing my worth is tipped really in the direction of feeling not good enough. And I have the ability through neuroplasticity to bring myself back to even out the scale and maybe even tip it into feeling good. Remember, when you feel good, you can do good? All right. So how do we do that with neuroplasticity? We can think of it as simple as, let me give my brain some new evidence about the opposite. Let me find all the evidence of why I'm actually doing a really good job. Now, I mentioned that I used to teach in dental school, UNE, University of New England Dental School. And yes, I used to teach about self-critiquing and self-assessment and, among other things, in orthodontics. And at the end of every year, I had to submit this huge binder of all my student reviews. Like, you know, at the end of every class, you'd ask for an assessment from your students, and I'd have to submit these. And I would look over them before I sent them because I wanted to know, what am I sending to the dean here? And what I learned was I was keeping a catalog of all these great words, gratitude, praise for the work I was doing, for the lectures I was giving, for the insight I was providing. It felt so good. I loved sending this in because every year I'd go over and I'd look, oh my gosh, I'm doing really well. This is really great. People are finding great insight and learning from my classes. Look at all these great reviews. It felt good. We get to do that for ourselves as dentists as well. So I invite you to create a catalog that you can reach out to anytime. Keep one in your side table next to your bed and keep one right at your desk. And anytime you're feeling like, oh my gosh, my awareness is telling me that I'm feeling like the worst dentist ever, pull out that form. Maybe it's on your desktop. Maybe it's on your laptop. Just open it up and remind yourself of how many people really value and appreciate the work that you're doing, and see if you can't tip the scales in the other direction. What I also want you to hear is how much we are putting our worth on external validation. That's another part where your metacognition, your awareness can step in. You can say, wow, I have been telling myself that my worth as a dentist is dependent on my patient's experience. And that is not true. That is not true. It's like saying, I've been telling myself my worth as a mom is dependent on my 4-year-old. Not true. Or my 17-year-old. Let me tell you, that's not true. You get to define your worth. And we get to go back to the internal validation. And the way we find internal validation is by reminding ourselves of what is, reminding ourselves of the truth. So another phenomenal practice I highly recommend is every day as you're driving home, let celebrating yourself be the way that you drive home. At the end of the day, I want you to find all the great things you did that day. Remember them. Highlight them, make them the biggest part of your day, just like you would in the past have, perseverated on that one difficult patient. I want you to perseverate on all the good things. Let that be the way you transition from work to home, and just start to notice how much better you feel, how much lighter you feel, and how much more present you are when you get home at night. You can start it right now. You don't have to wait for something bad to happen. Start it while you're still feeling good, and make it a practice, a habit pattern that sets you up for internal validation and internal celebration. Your mind will love it. It's a huge part of giving ourselves back that power that we deserve, the power that you deserve. And when you have a moment, when somebody has something really negative to say, I'm going to invite you this other very easy technique, and that is curiosity. So when you get that 1-star Google review, reach for curiosity. Oh, I wonder what she was going through that day. Instead of, where did I go wrong? I want you to say, oh, I wonder what it is that happened during that appointment. I wonder how I could support her more. I wonder what her experience was and what she needs. I wonder what she needs now. If you step into curiosity, it immediately pulls you out of that feeling of despair and hopelessness and responsibility for everything, because here's the truth. You are not responsible for everything, even though your mind has told you that. So I'm going to leave you with this today. I'm going to leave you with this reminder of all the good that you are doing in the world. And I'm going to leave you with a reminder that you get to remind yourself of it. Even though I'm going to tell you what I know to be true, that you are doing amazing things, that you are taking people out of pain, that you have put so much time and money and heart into the work that you do, and I honor you for that. What I need you to do is remind yourself of that every single day. Because the truth is, there are going to be patients that complain. There are going to be bad things that happen during your day. And you get to recognize the power you have to step back into feeling good. Because when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the business of happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.